A relationship with the right referral partner could be a game changer for any B2B company. So what if you could reverse engineer these relationships at a moment's notice? Start a podcast, invite potential referral partners to be guests on your show, and grow your referral network faster than ever. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with James Orsini. He is the Chief Operating Officer at VaynerMedia. James, how are you doing today?
I'm great, James. Thanks so much for giving me the time.
I appreciate you chatting with me today, James. We're going to be talking about something that I think is going to be fascinating for myself and for the folks listening, with you being the COO at VaynerMedia, obviously Gary Vaynerchuk being the CEO there, such a visionary leader. We're going to be talking about, how do you take ideas from someone who is a legendary visionary and actually distill them into kind of tangible plans and action. But before we do that, for the maybe handful of folks that are not familiar with VaynerMedia, James, could you explain, what is VaynerMedia? What are you guys up to up there?
Yeah, we are a full-service digital agency with really social at its core and its roots. But Gary has now created a holding company in Vayner X, which includes a traditional agency model, if you will, with account and creative and planners. We have a full-service media planning and buying division. We have a full-service production studio. And then it's augmented by a series of other offerings, including e-commerce and smart products and a talent division and a small business division and an experiential group. So Gary is really building a kingdom here under the Vayner X umbrella.
I love it. And so, James, so our listeners kind of understand just a little bit more context, can you share a bit of your journey and kind of what was the path that ultimately allowed you to cross paths with Gary?
Yeah, it was funny. So I've spent the better part of the last 25 years in the advertising space in one way, shape, or form. I was in public relations, which in a company that's now part of the MS&L group, and then I was at Interbrand, a branding company, where I served both as his chief financial and chief operating officer. And the funny part was, how'd you get into the operations and the execution of the vision? It really started in a conference room at Interbrand, where the then president of North America, we had 12 executives in the room, and he said, okay, who here has great ideas? And 12 people raised their hand. And then he said, okay, who here can execute? And one guy raised their hand. He said, okay, great, you're going to be the chief operating officer. So I was that guy, and then went on to become the chief operating officer at Saatchi & Saatchi Advertising. Most recently, before coming here to work with Gary and his brother AJ, I was the CEO of a small publicly traded mobile media company called Sito Mobile, trades on the NASDAQ, SITO. And ironically enough, I sat next to AJ Vaynerchuk about 8 years ago at a Seton Hall University basketball game. And that's how we met. We just started talking. And he said that he and his brother and a few guys started a small agency, and we kind of kept in touch and bang around, and about 3 years ago, I called AJ to just tell him that I was going to get back into the big advertising space after leaving Sito Mobile, and he said, "Hey, did you ever meet my brother Gary?" And I said no, and he said, "I think you should come in, spend some time with him," and I did, and he was pretty clear. He said, "Listen, I'm looking to build a $500 million independent, integrated, international communications company, and can you help me do it?" And I said, "Yes, I can." And he said, "Could you describe what you do in one sentence?" And I said, "Sure. I take dreams and visions and I make them into action plans." And he's like, "All right, you're hired. I got a lot of dreams and visions."
I love it. And so someone that I obviously follow all of Gary's content. I'm watching his stuff every single day. And the vision that he has is so enormous. What's the most challenging element, James, of coming alongside a visionary like that and distilling that vision down into tangible action plans?
It's really allowing the finance and operations to fuel the vision and not choke the vision. So often, we are so myopic in our understanding of using textbook applications, and as a result, that can really choke a visionary. So how do you let it run wild with some, what would we call, I call it scalable organization. So we try not to use the term process too much here, but how do we get some scalable organization? And it was interesting because he often helps reframe me and what I could do for him. And I remember early on, making a comment like, "Hey, I'm here to help you keep everything on the guardrails." And he's like, "No, you're not getting it. I need you to be the electric magnetic train that has me hover above the rail so I move faster." So he often just gives me a little piece of that nugget, and then I'll know, okay, so I'm recalibrated. I got a North Star. I know what I'm supposed to be moving against.
Got it. Could you share any stories, of the last few years that you've been there, James, where maybe he shared something that you thought, man, I don't know how we're going to pull that off, and then kind of just walk us through the journey of what it looked like to actually execute that particular vision?
Yeah, I think, in each and every day when he has a new offering, it often comes to pass, right? Because let's face it, what's the saying? A dream without a plan is nothing more than a wish, right? So,
yep.
He'll come in. I'll get a quick rap on the door. Hey, James, the fastest growing segment of advertising is video on social platforms. I know how the consumer consumes the content on the platform. Shouldn't I be doing the videos? Why are they going to BBDO or Edelman? And the answer is, yeah, you should be doing the videos. And great, build me some studios, and then off we go. And part of what I bring here, and it's important to realize there's 800 people here helping Gary execute his vision. It's believe me, it's not just me, but I use the tools that he's put around me to help execute on his vision. But today we have these 4D sessions as an example. And I was there when it was a 6 p.m. evening event, and he asked to turn on Facebook Live, and we waited 60 seconds, and 3,600 people showed up to see what he had to say. And he was said that he was going to have an event that was going to be like a Disney or a Zappos, and give a behind the scenes look at Vayner, and so then it had to become a plan, right? So it had to actually, there had to be a curriculum, there had to be the ability to accept credit cards, there had to be the ability to run security background checks on the individuals coming into the room. So, but it was his vision. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, and I don't know, I think we've probably had 10 successful events so far with 15 plus people in the room, and we're looking forward to 2018 and several more of the 4D events that we're running.
I've talked to a couple people that have gone through the experience, and they have both had nothing but great things to say about it. So the speed, I think that's something he talks so much about, is kind of speed being such a huge variable to success. And so he's obviously surrounded himself by, men and women like yourself that enable that speed, instead of like what you alluded to earlier, instead of constricting it, you're enabling it. Are there ever situations, James, where you have to tell him, hey, we just can't pull that off right now? Or, is it always, okay, like, let's go. What's that one?
No, look, he has enough people to say yes around him. I mean, he was painstakingly honest. He's like, look, I'm hiring you because you have 25 years of mistakes that I don't want to make. So, so how do we do it differently? I want to be international. I'm like, great, don't do it like I did. You don't need to be 31 offices in 26 countries. We could service the world from 3 spots. Those kind of things are what it is that we share back and forth. Oftentimes, what may sound like a no from me is nothing more than just a not now. Okay. It's not really a no. So understanding what it is that he's trying to accomplish and making sure that the pieces are in place. But remember, he's fearless, and we have a mutual respect for each other, but we know we're different, right? He said, listen, you made a career out of hitting singles and doubles and getting around base, and I swing for the stands every time I'm in the box, and a lot of times I'll hit a grand slam, and the next time I get hit in the head with a pitch, and that's okay, because that's who he is. I think I'm a good yin to his yang in helping him leverage, and people ask me that all the time, so who's your ad master? I don't have an ad. Who reports to you? I said, nobody reports to me. And they're like, well, how do you get stuff done? I said, because I leverage his 800 people that are here to get done what he needs to get done. Yep. So, using the tools that he has, I'm a connector. So I can see things and realize how the dots connect to make a picture. And, I'm getting much better in understanding what it is that he's trying to accomplish. And how in this industry, remember, he's not an agency guy. He runs this much more like it's a platform than an agency. And the good news about that is he doesn't come with 150-year legacy of how things should be done. Yeah. And the bad news about that is he doesn't know, how things are getting done in this industry. There's Fortune 50, there's procurement departments we have to get through. There's channels that we still have to do. And, people ask me, what keeps you up at night? And it's like, hey, how do I not become what it is that we're making fun of? But yet we're playing in that arena.
So James, I know that he put together, I think it was a little bit ago now, or at least when I started hearing him talk about it, but this concept of the office of the CEO, which is just a collection of, it looks like 5 or 6 folks that kind of sit around him that are really his eyes and ears into the entire organization. Are you a part of that group of people?
I work very closely with that group, and because oftentimes they are around him, traveling with him at his home on a weekend, at a Jets game with him, and he is imparting vision, and then they'll work with me to figure out, okay, so how do we actually get this into the company? How do we now actually get this done? Yeah. And make this happen.
That concept to me is fascinating, where their sole job is, from what I understand, they don't necessarily have direct reports. Can you kind of explain that model, the office of the CEO and the benefits that you've seen come out of it from your perspective?
Yeah, so there's a group of people who have been around Gary for years now and know that when he says something, he's looking to really get something done. So, he has one that leans a little heavier on the strategy side, one that leans a little heavier on the operations side, one that leans a little heavier on the account service side, and one that leans a little heavier on the new business side. So depending on which lever he's pulling, will determine which member of that group is taking the lead in trying to get something done. And remember, for Gary, it's all about culture. Okay, first and foremost, it is a culture. He prides himself on the empathetic culture that he has here. We have a very low mandatory turnover rate as it relates to the industry as a whole. And he cares about people. He wants to understand what it is that people really want to do with their lives, and he wants to enable them and help them make that happen. So that group also has a finger on the pulse of the culture of his agency, and we work hard to make sure that the vision can be executed without damaging the culture.
The more I hear him talk about the importance of speed, and then I see kind of the practical execution of, okay, well, how is he actually doing that? And I think putting those people around him is really, it's enabling speed. He has those people that are focused on different functions.
Well, Gary always says, the creative is the variable factor, right? And there is some subjectivity to that, but you can't argue speed and price. So if he tells you it's Thursday and it's $50,000, it's Thursday and it's $50,000. Now we may argue the deliverable because that may be subjective. You know what I mean? But generally speaking, we are winning because he's doing things faster than most. And change, he's most comfortable in change. In an industry that prides itself on its inability to change. It always talks about changing, and it's done it the same way for umpteen years. But the fact of the matter is, it's not going away, right? So even as great as all these digital platforms are, they have to revert to a 150-year-old advertising model in order to make any money.
Yeah.
So we know advertising is not going away, but he prides himself on advertising in the year that you live. I mean, seriously, how can you be spending all your money on out-of-home billboards and not be spending money on mobile display,
ads,
right?
Yeah. Yep.
And when people have their heads down, the passengers in the seats are not necessarily gawking out the window looking at billboards anymore. They're down looking at their phones.
His focus on attention to me is so incredible, that he's so agnostic. He doesn't care whether it's Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram or TV. He's bullish on Super Bowl ads.
Exactly. Just that profound statement about Super Bowl ads should be more expensive than what they are, when you have everybody just in a tailspin with how expensive each minute is on the Super Bowl, and his belief is like, no, the attention arbitrage says it probably should be more money, and you should just be spending a lot less around the Oscars, as an example.
Yep.
But it's all it's all additive, and I think that's important too, because a lot of people think he is just about the social, and it's not. He's about a full service offering that complements the best marketing strategy to do what it is that you're trying to do. Acquire more customers, sell more product, increase brand awareness, whatever that is. What I love about this is this is a test lab. He tells everybody, hey, I've built this machine for myself. You just get to use it, right? And what's so refreshing for someone like me who's been in the space for 25 years is he doesn't ask anybody to do what he hasn't already done for himself and proven. So it's like game over. Like, we know it's going to work.
Yeah, no, I love that. James, are you a part, I know with the 4D, the 4Ds experience, they, those folks that sign up for that get to, they get to spend time with Claude. They get a little bit of time with Gary. They see different parts of the organization. Are you in that mix of people that they're spending time with?
So I have been early on, and just coming out of a meeting that Gary and I had on Friday, he wants me to be more actively involved in 2018. He believes that there's a special sauce to a Vayner operations right now, and he himself is an operating CEO, so he's sensing something. His spidey senses are up, if you will, and he thinks there's more to be done in exploiting what it is that we've developed in a short period of time. I'll be here 3 years in January, from a Vayner operations mode, a speed, a place that can operate as fearless in an industry that is fearful. But remember, speed without control is reckless, right? So we don't want to be reckless. We just want to be fast.
Have you been able, you being more involved in 2018, but in the little involvement that you've had so far, have there been any kind of common themes or any common questions that you've seen people kind of coming through that experience have that you think would be helpful for our listeners to hear?
Well, I think they get an awareness of how powerful an integrated offering can be. Right. So let's talk about speed. We had a beverage client, okay, and we did some creative, and then the analytics group looks at it and says, okay, if the consumer consumes at least 10 seconds of the content, more likely to make the purchase. We go over to the media department. They say, okay, great, we understand the audience that you're going for. They're over here. We'll run the media here. We do it for 24 hours. We see a 60% of the people abandoning within the first 3 seconds. We go back to the media department and said, where are you running this media? He goes, no, I'm telling you, this is where the audience is. Must be the creative. We change out the creative. We get that all right and back on the rails for free within 24 hours.
Wow.
That cannot happen in a holding company setting. I know. I've worked for two of them. It's impossible. That, first of all, that's 4 different companies that I would mention if it were in a holding company. Yeah. Not one floor here at VaynerMedia. And this is what our clients love about us. And Gary always says doing the right thing is always the right thing. So we just corrected it. We didn't charge them for it.
Got it. Now, and so that when you share that with those 4Ds clients, you kind of just see their eyes open up at thinking, oh my gosh, that's, the speed at which you're able to have that fully integrated offering is, I would imagine, something they've never even heard of before.
Absolutely. I mean, and just recognizing that, if that were anywhere else, they'd be like, listen, we did storyboards, we did animatics, the client approved the creative. If you want to change the creative, that's a separate scope of work. We're going to need more money for it. We'll start the engines again. We'll get back to you in the next 2 weeks. And Gary's like, oh my God, 2 weeks, that's a freaking eternity. Apparently that's $8,000+ in Bitcoin if you wait that long.
James, this has been incredible. I've loved this conversation. It's got me thinking about a whole host of different things. I'd love to close out the interview by asking, obviously legacy is huge for Gary. He talks about legacy being more important than currency all the time. I'd love for you to share, what is the legacy that you want to leave?
I think for me personally, it would be, to whom much is given, much is expected. So I'm looking to help as many people as I can and hope that they pay it forward. Gary and I are very much aligned in that and our ability to help people simply because we're in a position to do so.
Yeah.
So, I think if we all did that, we'd be in a much better place.
I love it. James, if there's somebody listening that want to stay connected with you, Twitter, LinkedIn, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Yep. I'm active on LinkedIn, James Orsini, and very much so on Twitter at Jimmy the Pencil.
Awesome. James, this has, again, been incredible. I really, really appreciate your time today.
Thanks for taking the time, James.
If you're a B2B marketer, we want to feature you on sites like Huffington Post, Social Media Examiner, and Chief Marketer. Every week, we send out a question related to B2B marketing. We use the responses to those questions to fuel the content we write for really popular websites. So head over to sweetfishmedia.com/questions and sign up today.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.